So let's bring out the influencer panel, Gina Tash, Sean Kelly, and Big Vinny. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, so on this stage, you have the collective wisdom of the who's who of social media, of podcasting, of people that are building brands. I want to just ask the audience, who seriously uses, not like you post once every 6 months, who seriously uses social? Could be Instagram, it could be something else. Who uses it for their business? Okay. Who wishes that it could drive more leads, a little bit more traffic? Because let's be real, you're putting in a lot of energy and effort, and it's like half-ass results sometimes. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about building a personal brand, building influence, using it for business. All three of your panel speakers up here have all built massive audiences and used it to actually drive real results. It's not easy, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We're going to talk about that. So I want to give intros. I'm going to read off intros so I get everybody's intro absolutely perfect. So Big Vinny, give him a round of applause on the far right. Big Vinny charted 5 top 40 Billboard Hot Country hits with Trailer Choir, earned a CMT Award nomination for Rocking the Beer Gut, and after an inspiring 211-pound weight loss journey on The Biggest Loser, you became a motivational speaker who shared stages with the legends of Toby Keith, Taylor Swift, ZZ Top. That's impressive, dude. Congratulations.
It's been a blessing to be on those stages. So.
Amen, yeah.
But not as near as big as blessing to being at Risk-On, okay? That's what I'm saying.
Sean is, by the way, so Todd gave my podcast a shout out, so I'll have to give Sean's podcast a shout out. So Sean has a massive, massive show. And I've never seen somebody work harder than Sean. And if you don't follow Sean's show, Digital Social Hour, please go subscribe. Of course, you can subscribe to Success Story too, but go subscribe to Digital Social Hour. This guy, how many episodes do you put out a month?
84 a month.
That's not normal. So first of all, if you are going to start creating, you don't have to put out 84 of anything a month, but Sean's podcast is fabulous. You have how many million monthly listeners? Outside, you have like 11 or 12 million followers on social. How many people download your show?
We're getting 1 million downloads a month just off audio.
That's amazing. Okay. And then lastly, Gina Tash. So Gina Tash is my better half. She was actually a little bit my muse why I started creating content. When I met her, she had built out a little brand called My Therapist Says with her 2 sisters. They have, to date, 8.2 million followers. They do 90 million US impressions monthly, which is absolutely insane. She is one of the OG meme accounts. So they put out the most relevant content. They work with brands like Netflix, Gucci, Hinge, any sort of consumer brand. They've done a deal with them. So you have somebody who's gone through their entire life story in the public spotlight. You have somebody that built a massive podcast and also personal brand. You have somebody that basically works with the largest brands in the world, all on social. And I guess for myself, what do? I have a big podcast. We also do about 1 million downloads a month. We get the distribution from Amazon Prime, Hulu, DirecTV. I have a large mailing list, about 320,000 newsletter subscribers, and a massive social as well. So we're going to go into it, and if we have some time for questions, like just start to think about stuff you'd like to ask us. I'm going to start with Gina. So posting on social is one thing, but we all know that the metric that actually matters is whether or not people share your content. Are people sharing it with their friends? Is it hitting home with them? The likes don't matter. The followers don't matter. Are they sharing it? Is it something that makes somebody say, I want to send this to a friend because it's so interesting or useful? You do that exceptionally well. You have people tagging their friends in the comments. You have people sharing it, thousands and thousands of people sharing it with their friends. How do you get this? How do you do this?
Well, first of all, you're right. Likes and comments are not a very useful metric anymore. It's all about the sends and the shares. So we have a very clear formula for what we do. All the content we create, it has to be very broad and relatable to as many people as possible. We don't really niche down. So our formula is we take the messiest, craziest thoughts inside our heads and we kind of put them into a very clever and concise one-liner thought. And that's what really resonates with the most amount of people, right? Because most people, they are trying to share with their friends. They're trying to maybe talk about things that are bothering them, but they can't really find the words often unless they're like, a good writer or something. And you don't want to like, send your friends a long essay explaining why you don't feel like going to a Thanksgiving dinner single because your family's gonna, attack you with questions. So if you have someone like us who takes that whole entire like feeling and thought and kind of puts it down into a one-liner with a funny picture, immediately you're sending it to your friend being like, haha, that's all me. And that's what makes it so incredibly shareable.
I was going to say super, super relatable. And also just a point though, because there will always be an argument of niche versus non-niche content. Yes. But understand, very good lesson, understand what you're actually optimizing for. So you can have content that is highly relatable to a wide group of people that can be shared very easily. That's kind of like your top of funnel, so to speak, in your social. But then also, if you have a product attached, you can tie back some more specific stuff. Sean, okay, let's go to Sean. So you create business content that is very authoritative, but also relatable, which is very hard to do. People are great at being these super intelligent talking heads on social. And even when, sometimes when I podcast, I feel myself nerding out a bit too much. So how do you make it super authoritative and useful, but also very relatable?
Yeah, similar to Gina, we started off as a marketing podcast, and it was decent, but it was too niche. It couldn't relate to mass audiences, so we weren't getting millions of views as a marketing podcast. So when I switched over to self-development, I felt like that type of content could relate more with people rather than just nerding out on numbers and scaling companies. Although you and I think that content is cool, millions of people aren't going to like and comment on stuff like that. So we keep the clips as general as possible and relatable content and just consistency. We post 6 clips a day, so that's how we're able to get millions of views a day. A lot of people ask how to get more views and more followers. That just comes with the repetitions. You're not going to just start off and get millions. So having filmed 1,000 episodes now, we're really starting to get that snowball rolling.
I think that's important though, like putting in the reps. I think people underestimate just putting in the reps. Like we can give you all the information in the world, but at the end of the day, you're going to take it, and if you try it tomorrow, it's going to be rough. But if you try it for the next year, 2 years, you start to see results, and that's really that's the net takeaway of any advice you're going to get on social. Big Vinny.
What's up?
What's going on? Okay, so you do a great job. You do a great job of, I think, taking your story and putting it into your content. And I think that a word that gets thrown around a lot is authenticity. A lot of people try and do this, and they fail. Now, you've been very good at taking sort of your journey, and you've had some really tough times in your journey, and you can talk about those too, but how do you include those tough times and those true moments that have defined you, and you put that into your content?
So I think for me, I spent a lot of time pretending to be something I wasn't. Whenever I was trying to make it in the music industry, I was like, oh, I got to see what these people are doing that are making them famous, that are making them great, and I got to do exactly what they're doing. Well, the problem is there was already a Toby Keith. We didn't need another Toby Keith. We needed a Big Vinny. And so finally I learned in the music industry first to be Big Vinny and make music for Big Vinny fans, things that I like, things that's authentic to me. Same thing when I went on The Biggest Loser. When I first got on the show, I didn't want anybody to know all the hardships I went through as a kid. I was severely beat by my stepdad. All these crazy things happened to me. And I didn't want nobody to know that because I didn't want people to think I was weak. Because I was Big Vinny, I'm strong. I didn't want people to know that. But I realized while I was on that show, and it switched in my brain like, hey, other people need to hear your story. Other people need to hear that message so that they know it's okay for them to have gone through hard things, and you can come out on the other side and still do great things. Yeah. So for me, when I make my content, anything I'm doing, my wife would be like, how do you go in there and just record one time and go? I'm like, I just give them whatever I get the first time and make it happen. Yeah. And I believe it was actually Bull Walsh that told me, he said, post it, like putting something out there, posting is better than perfect. You know what I mean? So as long as you're making progress, you're putting something out there, that's better than it being perfect all the time. So I just go out there and be me every single day, and the people that love me will love me, and the people that don't, well, they'll go like somebody else, I guess.
Just to follow up on that, because I think this is actually a really good point, and I want to just like sit in putting yourself into your content for a second, because you all do it, so maybe we can all just talk on that for a second. But Vinny in particular, when you started to put yourself out there and talked about some really tough shit, like not everybody goes through the stuff that you went through in your life, what was the reaction from the audience?
It was so crazy to me because I'm on national television. There was 20 million people watching every Tuesday night. Mm-hmm. I'm half naked up there, no shirt on in front of everybody, which I was okay with. I thought I was the hottest guy in the world. But as I started telling that, people started to message me on social media like, oh my gosh, I went through that. Oh my gosh, my so-and-so is going through that right now. And I thought that was a unique opportunity for me to get to tell them about Jesus Christ. And that's my biggest thing I want to influence anybody to do is go out there and, thank you, is to go out there and find a relationship with God. We are all humans. We're all flawed. We're going to make mistakes. I've made plenty of them. I'll probably make one today at some point. But if we can have that relationship with God and do that. So I got a chance to minister and talk to people through that. And because they were willing to reach out to me and say, hey, thank you for sharing your story. It makes me willing to share mine.
Sean, do you put yourself into you do, I know you do, so it's a rhetorical question. But how do you put yourself into your content?
Yeah, it's been a massive weight lifted off my shoulder, actually. Podcasting, I'm sure you can relate, is like a form of therapy. You get a lot off your chest. I've had some childhood trauma, some near-death experiences, and being able to vocalize that after holding it in for so many years just felt amazing. So it's really important to be authentic these days. People can sense if you're not. You saw with the election, I'm not trying to get too political, but like Trump was just so authentic on podcasts, and when Kamala went on, I mean, it was just scripted answers. So I think it's really important to be authentic.
I know how my therapist has started is basically you were going to therapy and then you realized that a lot of other people might have the same issues as what you did, and you found a way to almost poke fun at yourself. I mean, when you first started, was that like a nerve-wracking thing? When you first started bringing your own life into your content, talk to me about sort of some of the feedback you got from your audience and how that hit home.
Well, so we were very intentional with naming our account or our brand, My Therapist Says. And we started out actually posting content very anonymously because this was in the very early days of Instagram. We've been doing this for like over 10 years now. We're one of the OG, Instagram influencers. And obviously, it's a very vulnerable experience starting to randomly put content out there when you're just like regular college students or whatever, right? So we were like, okay, let's do this anonymously. And if it, takes off, it takes off. We're so funny. We think we're funny. So let's just like see if other people also think that. And if other people are going through the things we're going through, which in those days, like 10 years ago, it was, breakups and figuring out what you want to be when you grow up as college students, or like, just like any challenges and tribulations that young women are going through. So we started putting stuff out there, and it didn't start out as mental health related content. It was literally just our lives. So we're making fun of ourselves. We're poking fun of ourselves, our friends, and things that we go through every day. And because our name was My Therapist Says, I think a lot of people started to think that we're therapists. And it just kind of allowed our audience to be very vulnerable and to feel very connected to us, because they felt like we were destigmatizing therapy and we were talking about it and normalizing it, which a lot of people were kind of embarrassed to say that they're in therapy, because the connotation was, if you're in therapy, if you're seeking help, you're unwell, like you're crazy. And we wanted to show that no, we just like sometimes not everyone has someone to talk to. Or, when you're young, you don't necessarily have friends you can confide in and feel safe in that, like they don't have a safe space. So we always thought that like therapy is something everyone should do and kind of get your thoughts out and have someone to just discuss your everyday challenges with. So we were very purposeful in kind of talking about it, but we didn't think it would take off the way it did. We didn't think it would like strike such a nerve. When we hit 2 million followers, we said that we would do a reveal and kind of show who's behind the account and behind the ideas, because that's when people were really interested in knowing who we were.
Vinny, what would be your your best lesson for somebody starting out? You can answer this 2 ways. Best lesson for somebody starting out, posting on social, something you just have gone through when you were starting out, or biggest misconception about social that you'd like to sort of put to death? Or you can answer both, because they're both good points for people starting out.
Yeah, I think, we get this thing where we try to fit in, like we was talking about a while ago, being authentic. I mean, even for me last year, whenever I was coming here, and I got asked to be part of this, and I started looking up the panel of who was going to be here, and it was like Kennedy's and Tucker Carlson and like all these massive people, and I'm like, I don't belong there. Oh my gosh, I gotta get a suit. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. And then my wife literally looked at me and she goes, "No, you need to go be Big Vinny." So again, back to that authenticity thing. And I was like, man, you kind of feel like you're a fraud or something. Like I'm not supposed to be there with all these people that are multi-bazillionaires or whatever. And she told me to be me. And so, thank you. Yeah. My wife is awesome. Y'all met little Jenny yesterday. But, you know, she kept me on track there. I think stop worrying what everybody thinks. Go be you 100%, and there's going to be people that ain't going to like you. When we first put out the first country rap song we put out, it was called Off the Hillbilly Hook. It's as crazy as it sounds. But we put out this rap song in country music. It was for Toby Keith's movie Beer for My Horses. And I thought everybody's going to love it. It's going to be the greatest thing. I have so much fun playing it. Every one of our fans love it. So we go and record this music video in downtown Los Angeles, and it's got everybody from Willie Nelson to Claire Filani to Tom Skerritt. It's got all these great, you know, huge actors and everything in it. And we think it's going to be the greatest thing ever. We put it on YouTube, and I start scrolling the comments. That's where I made a big mistake. I start scrolling the comments, and the first comment I see is like, oh, this guy's great. I can't believe he's 500 pounds, and he can break dance. You know, I do the worm in the video and all this stuff. I can't believe he can do all that. And I was like, yeah, I'm great. The next one, all this music's cool, this is great. And then I get down about, I don't know, 4 or 5 comments in, and literally this comment says, I can't believe they let that fat MFer have a record deal. I hope he dies of a heart attack on stage. And it crushed me because I want everybody to love me. I love everybody. I want everybody to love me. And it was affecting me so bad. And my buddy Butter, who was in the band with me, I was sitting there, I was like, you know what? I'm about to let him know exactly what I think about him. And I was 22 at the time, so I was going to let him know. And Butter goes, why? I was like, because of what he said about me. He goes, so? He's like, you're out on tour with Toby Keith, living your dream, having this great opportunity and great life. He's probably sitting in the basement of his parents' house, never going to amount to anything. He said, the best thing you could do, thank you. He said, the best thing you could do is actually send him a message and say, hey, man, I appreciate your comment or whatever. I hope life gets better for you. Yeah. So instead of answering with hate or mean stuff, answer with something nice and loving, and it'll change their heart instead of that. So I would just say, don't let the haters bring you down to the hate level. Give them haters love, okay?
I love it. Now, Sean, I want you to take it home, and then same question, like some biggest misconception that you want to sort of put to death about social that you've experienced.
Yeah, I'll add on to Vinny. The hate is inevitable. I have on the most hated people in the world on the podcast, so I'm getting hate comments daily. I probably got 50 since we started this panel. So don't let the hate scare you. I was so scared of the hate and the criticism. I didn't start a podcast for 5 years because I was so scared of being judged. But don't let that stop you. That's inevitable on social media. And then in terms of like going viral, the clips are really important these days. You need really good clip editors. Like I said earlier, I'm posting 6 times a day. And the hook, the first second or two, super important. People will stop scrolling if the first second or two doesn't catch their attention. So make sure that's the best part of the clip.
No, I was just going to agree with Sean about, you know, I think there's a superpower in getting a lot of hate comments because you become sort of immune to it and you're able to send love and you're able to do all that. Because for us, it's the obvious. We're so used to getting like hundreds of thousands of really, really nice comments. So when the one time someone doesn't agree or says something like unfollowing, it like really touches you. Yeah. So you have to kind of grow that thick skin and get used to the hate.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate you all. Let's give everybody here a round of applause. Thank you so much.